Hey, I'm JRLA, and welcome back to the Level Up Business Podcast. Today, I'd like to introduce you to Greg Martin. Greg is a former commercial banker turned fractional CFO, and together we're going to explore what it really means to take what Gino Wickman calls the entrepreneurial leap. You see, Greg's story isn't just a business story. It is a story of faith. It's a story of family. It's a story of the raw reality of entrepreneurship, because together, Greg and I are going to explore topics that every entrepreneur wrestles with, from imposter syndrome to work-life balance to confronting the lies that hold us back from the freedom that comes from fully owning your unique wisdom. But first, if you are a visionary B2B entrepreneur who has unique wisdom like the wisdom that Greg is going to share with you today, send me a text right now, 832-240-1922, because I want to teach you how to elevate your brand's influence so that you can increase your revenue by turning video content like the one you're watching right now into a book that amplifies your unique wisdom. Now, let's get ready to learn. Let's get ready to grow. Let's get ready to level up together with Greg. Greg, you said we need a massive disclaimer.
Yeah, but the good thing is now that I can speak completely freely because it's just me. I don't have to worry about. Yeah, I work for a big bank and they really don't know I'm talking about this, so I can't really say now. Now I can say whatever I want.
Well, and I think, why don't we start there? Because so much has changed since you and I have, I think, had an actual conversation.
Yeah,
We've DM'd and we've texted back and forth, but it's so good to see you, first and
you
foremost.
too.
And give me some good news. What is going well in your life right now, personally and professionally?
Personally, so we are in the middle of a summer, and so my wife and I both work from home, and so we've kind of established that really well, and it's great during the school year when our darling, amazing 17-year-old son goes to school. But now that he hasn't gone to school in a couple months, and he he's not really working as many hours as we would like him to work. So he spent all last week pressure washing and staining our fence. So that's good to have a little bit of, not so free labor. I mean, I paid him for it and everything, but it's like, dude, you need to get a job. But like today, he's starting. He's being an intern at our church to kind of learn AV and tech more. Like he wants to be a sports writer when he grows up, and so anything that he can do to kind of start to learn the techie side of it and bring value that way, that's pretty cool. So that's awesome that he's we found something for him to do, and mom and dad aren't screaming at him to get up and go do something.
Well, you need to connect him with Audrey, who's in the producer seat right now, because that's what she wanted to do, the whole sports thing herself.
Yeah.
And she'd be a really good person, really good connection. And I think the other thing too is I'm hearing, I mean, this Level Up Business is a podcast for entrepreneurs. And I can't help but think, you said he pressure washed the fence. What else did he do?
So that and the fence and the driveway,
So
so
yeah. Why not go knock doors, go learn how to face some rejection, get turned down, get told no to, go sell some houses and go make some money. So you can just pull this clip, have him watch this, because he's 17. My oldest is 15, and I think he's going to graduate this year from selling snow cones in the front yard with his sister, because they've done that
yeah.
over the past few summers, and they've made some significant change.
Yeah, it's amazing how much you for the little kids. Yeah, you just throw an extra 5 and 10 in there. There's a great tip. Good job. It's like,
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm like, he loves cars. Like, we just went to go see the new F1 movie, and we never go to the movies. But he was like, Dad, that's what I want for my birthday. Just go take me to see the F1 movie. Okay, great. Because he loves cars. And like, if you love cars that much, go knock doors in our neighborhood, pre-sell detailing,
yeah,
and start building. I saw Pete Caputa, who's the CEO over at DataBox. He had shared something like on from a Instagram video from his son, but he repurposed it on LinkedIn. And I'm like, I showed my oldest, showed Ludwig. I'm like, look, dude, this kid's like 16, 17. He's like a year or two above you. you've got some money saved from your snow cone business. Take that capital, go buy the things because I'm not funding it for you.
Yep. Yep.
Go do
Yep.
this. So anyway, you're
Or I sure I'll do it. Now we're gonna have a loan contractor. We're gonna talk about interest, and we're gonna talk about you got to pay me 150 bucks a month. If you don't have it, too bad, so sad.
that's
I mean,
exactly right.
so that's what I'm teaching him. Like with his car, I own 75. It's an old car that my wife had, so but I own 75% of his car, and he owns
Yeah.
25. So we got to go get new tires. So
Uh,
Dad'll pony up 75% of it. He's gonna have to pony up 25. In order to just like, hey, this is what it's like to be an adult and to learn how to do adult things. Um, but it's been really good, frustrating at times, but really good to be able to do that. Another good thing that personally, so my wife and I and son took the first vacation in 2 years. So I started this business 2 years ago. So we'll get into kind of my journey and all that, but you're starting out a business, you don't have time to get away from it. There's so much stuff, but to be able to actually get away. So we were on a vacation, and then later on this month, now that we're in July, um, he's going to go on a mission trip, and my wife and I are going to go down to Galveston for a staycation, and all that, and to be able to just see, okay, what do we need to do to be able to unplug? Because I mean, I love what I do and she loves what she does. But at the same time, there has to be some type of an off button because otherwise you're just like, you know what, I don't want to think about the business. I don't want to do it. And I don't want this to be any type of resentment or anything like that, even though I don't feel that now. But how do I protect myself? How do I protect our relationship and make sure that we're sustainable? Because I mean, we've got 20, 25 more years of this, and I've only got a couple more years with my son. So how do I be present for him for a couple of years? And then when he goes off to school, then we can talk about scaling and growing and pouring it on when I don't have to worry about missing
right.
time with him because he's not here anyway.
Yes, and I feel that now that the old axiom, the days are long but the years are short. Now that my kids are 15, 13, almost 11 and 9, I'm starting to feel that. And then it's okay, we've launched a new brand ourselves, with Level Up Business after
Mm-hmm.
23 years of entrepreneurship in the financial services world, which I don't know, maybe like let's start there because that's both our past.
Yep.
You were in financial services,
Mm-hmm.
as a commercial banker.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what was so fascinating about the work you're doing in your past and how you've parlayed that here, what was the impetus for you to say 2 years ago, I'm going all in, I'm launching
Mm-hmm.
this business, and you're like, I'm going to bet on
Mm-hmm.
myself?
Yeah. Well, it started 3 years ago, and it literally was about this time 3 years ago. I had a book of business like a normal commercial banker, and I probably had, between my loan clients and deposit clients, I maybe 350 clients or so that I managed and everything. And one of the things, this will come into play later, but one of the things I really enjoyed about being a banker is that you could bring value to different entrepreneurs, different businesses in different sectors. So you're talking to a doctor at one point, and then you hang up the phone, and then you go talk to someone who's a real estate developer that's doing a self-storage deal. Then you go talk to a manufacturer, then you go talk to a software designer, all of that. So to be able to kind of bounce all around, but to be able to use an understanding of business and an understanding, obviously from the banking side, is very capital focused. How do they use capital the right way and
Hmm.
to grow their business? And so that I love that. But there was probably 3 or 4 businesses that I worked with that I would even consider leaving the bank for. I mean, I had a great relationship at the bank. I mean, I had a very clear path. I mean, I was with the bank for 17 years. Um, I knew what my next job would be, and that was gonna, I mean, that's just what it would be until I retire. And so I wasn't looking to leave the bank, but one of the guys, um, they came to me and was like, you know, about 6 months before that, they had lost their controller.
Mm.
And so, and I am not an accountant. I am not a county. Like I seriously, I joke with everybody still. I'm 2 years into this gig, so maybe I shouldn't joke anymore. But I'm like, I don't know if it's a debit or a credit. It's like make this go up and that go down. And you know, 90% of the time when I say type it out, they're like, no, it's the other way around. So,
You're taking me
uh,
back to my MBA, man. You're giving me some PTSD on
yeah,
this.
yeah. I am not a county. You know, now I've learned a lot of a county in the last 2 years. But anyway, so he's like, "Hey, you want to be a control?" You know, jokingly, he's like, "Hey, you want to be controller?" I was like, "No, I don't want to be your controller, and you don't want me to be your controller." And then about 6 months later, he came back, and it was like, "Hey, you know, we've worked well together. Let's go out and have some lunch." And he's like, "All right, so we're searching for a controller, but historically, what we've gotten out of a controller is what a controller does. A controller is someone that makes sure the books are clean and the balance sheet balances and says, here's the score. You keep scoring business by your books." It's backwards looking. He's like, we need a CFO. We need someone who can look forward. You know,
Yes.
someone who can say, okay, if we're driving in the car, the CFO is in the passenger seat saying, hey, we need to pull off and get gas because there's no more gas stations for 180 miles. We need to take a left after 2 miles up here. You know, it's that forward looking. It's understanding where you are so that you know have proximity, but it's forward looking. And so he's like, look, we need someone that's not, you know, that's not a controller. We need someone to help provide leadership to be able to do all that. So I mean, like he was like saying my pitch to
Right.
to me. You
Yeah.
know, it's like we've never
He was
had that
selling you
before and
on
everything.
you.
Yeah. So now for good or for bad, and again, he was one of three entrepreneurs that I would consider having this conversation with. And um, whether it was good or bad, you know, I mean, it's like he's like, well, what does this look like? We've never had a CFO before. What would it take? And I was like, well, it's kind of bad negotiation on your part because I've seen your financials and I know what you can afford and I know what you can you. So, and I was like, well, I've got 17 years at the bank. I've got a pension. I've got this. I've got that. I've got, you know, all these things that was being afforded to me. And it's like, this is not going to be a step back. This is not going to be a lateral move. It was a
Gonna be a
business that
level up.
required some advanced degrees that I don't have. So I couldn't get equity in the
Mm-hmm.
business. So it was like, if you want me to move, this is going to be a level up. And he's like, oh, well, that's kind of steep. I was like, well, in the back of my mind, I was like, dude, that's like a tenth of what you made last year. So, and again, all the things that you said that you need, I would provide. And I had delivered that, and he knew that for me, um, because they were working with me. So it's a total of two guys, two girls that own the business, and so they
Yeah.
went and like, okay, well, we've got they're an EOS, so we've got
Yep.
our L10 meeting. Let's talk about it and kind of go through that. You know, either the L10 meeting or the quarterly. I don't remember what it was, but it's like, okay, we're going to go away. We're going to talk. So then he comes back like 2 weeks later, not even that. And he's like, hey man, so we just interviewed the controller and she's a rock star. And she's absolute, I mean, she is a rock star. She has since been she's since been promoted to CFO in their world, but like she's like at the top end of where we could afford. or where we budgeted. And so because we got hurt, I'm going to have to say, no, we don't want to hire you. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. You're the one that started this whole plan. And it's just like, oh my gosh. So yank, he started to, scratch the entrepreneurial itch. And I mean, you knew I was the entrepreneurial banker, so I thought entrepreneurially. And so it was like, okay, and it all worked out great. I mean, looking back, knowing their CFO, the knowing her personality, knowing her experience, I could not have done what they needed. She
Right.
did. And
Yes.
so it was really great. But then that really got me thinking. It's like, okay, well, how do I do this? So over the next year, I I met with a couple other fractional CFOs in town, some good friends of mine, and just said, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. What does it look like? Everything from what do you offer? How do you get over imposter syndrome? Because I mean,
Hmm.
I'm I know how to talk all this stuff, but I've never done it before. What do I offer? How do I charge? Am I by the hour? Am I fixed? Am I, a flat fee? Am I project based? What do I do? What type of insurance do I need? What type of, business setup do I need to get? The $4,000 of equipment that you've got to buy. I mean, it's a super low entry barrier entry, but all that stuff. And so over the next 12 months, I started to develop that out. Reread story brand. And so I, created my own website because said, okay, here's what I can do. Talk to other fractionals. And then I started to very discreetly go to, it was really the other three or four clients that I had. And it's like, hey, I'm leaving the bank on this day. Here's what
Yes.
I'm doing.
Okay, so I want to
And
pause you real fast because I think this
yeah,
is important. There's a couple of things to roll back on. Number one, you talk about you had someone else helped you see a possibility.
yeah,
It's like it opened up that thread, if you will. If you think about like string theory and multiverse, it's like, okay, now here's a possibility of
yeah.
where I could go. You can't unsee that thing again. So now it's in your field of vision. You start thinking about, well, what do I need to do? You start making connections. You start having conversations with others who've been down the path before. They're giving you some guidance. You then make a decision. You said on this date, I am now leaving where I was to go and take the next step.
Mhm.
How important was it for you to have that definitiveness? And I call it definitiveness because if I think about some of the writings from Napoleon Hill, a lot of people think of Think and Grow Rich. I think about outwitting the devil, but he talks a lot about definitiveness, like making a commitment. How important was that for you to make the commitment to do the thing before you perhaps were ready to do the thing?
Well, I was ready in different ways. I had sat on the other side of as a banker. I'd sat on the other side of the desk, someone saying, I want to leave my comfy, cozy W 2 job to go do this. And so I counseled them, okay, well, you need to, whether I personally don't like 200-page business plans, get to the meat and the potatoes, know your numbers, have
Hmm.
some really good projections, but then also know your personal life because you have to continue to make your mortgage, you have to continue to eat, you have to continue to provide for your family. And then what's the wad of cash that you need to have set aside to lower that risk? If you step out on this and everyone laughs at you and says you're crazy, I would never hire you to do that. Then, then one, well, you've done a poor job bringing your value, so that's on you. But you are mitigating that risk. And as a
Mm.
banker, that's all we did all day long was mitigate risk. And so I did that, but it was important to your point of having an exact day. And I told myself, I was like, okay, well, here's how much I got to bring in each month in order to sustain our lifestyle.
Yes.
Here's what I have to have so that, okay, we may not be eating steak, but we're also not eating ramen and beanie weenies. And
Mm.
here's what I want.
want to be. Yes.
Yeah. And so so going through that and what I thought going into it, what I thought was, okay, well, I need to get at least to the bare minimum in
Right.
order to make that leap. The reality of it, JR, is that as soon, and I was lucky enough that I had three clients that when it came time for the leap, they believed in me and they said, okay, let's do this. And so I had that minimum. But I was blessed in that I had all three. But the reality of it is, as soon as that first one said yes, I was pot committed. I couldn't, even though that one by itself was not enough in order to meet that minimum, I could not back out at that point. I had said,
Mhm.
this is what I want to do. This is the value. And you had the guts and the courage to say, yes, Greg, I've enjoyed you as my banker. Now I want to bring you onto the dark side. And I can really show you all the stuff because a good banker knows what questions not to ask and a good
Right.
entrepreneur knows what questions not to answer. I'm not saying lie to them, not saying that at all. I'm saying you just have to kind of be aware. And I love bankers and I work well with a lot of bankers still, but as good as they are, they've never really they see the world through the bank's eyes. And that's
Correct.
okay. But entrepreneurs see the world through entrepreneurs' eyes. And sometimes those aren't, most of the times, those are not, I mean, they're aligned, they're close, but they're not the same. And so, really, to be able to learn that and to take that leap had to happen. And if you don't have a definitive date, then you're going to languish into never, never land and never get anything done.
See, that to me, it's a matter of perspective of why I launched Level Up Business after 23 years as an entrepreneur, working with other banks, working with other credit unions, because I got to the point of just frustration of fighting the same battles for literally 2 decades.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I felt beat up. Like I felt tired. Like I felt like I kept
Yeah.
getting back into the ring, kept getting knocked down. And it's like I had a good business.
Mm-hmm.
But over time, that business was just taking a toll on me. It was taking a toll on my family because it's like I'd go home and I will never forget this. My number three, he was like, Dad, every time you come home, you feel like you have a dark cloud over you. I was like,
Yeah.
ugh. And
Yeah.
and and now, since launching Level Up, there's been a huge energy shift. It's like I come home, I'm happy, I'm excited because I'm working with people who see the world differently. I'm working with other entrepreneurs to help them turn video into books, to help them tell their story, to help them unlock their wisdom that they've gained as an entrepreneur over the last 10, 20, 30 plus years. But here's the interesting thing, and you said this word before, that's why I want to loop back to it. I hear a lot of entrepreneurs, they want to level up their business, they want to grow, they want to share the wisdom that they've gained. They know how that's going to help elevate their brand, which is going to have a positive impact on their revenue over the next year, 2, 3 years. But then they let all these lies start creeping in.
Mm-hmm.
What do I know? Who's going to read my book? Who's going to listen to my podcast? Who's going to watch my video? I don't have time for social media. I'm not that smart. It's that it's that lie. It's those
Mm-hmm.
lies. It's the imposter syndrome. It's the devil, as Napoleon Hill was writing about, and outwitting the devil. It's the fear. How did you, and perhaps even still, how are you dealing with imposter syndrome as an entrepreneur? Because I think that's something, if you're not an entrepreneur, or if you don't work in an entrepreneurial organization working closely with entrepreneurs, you might not know what that feels like. Because just the other day, someone replied to something I posted on LinkedIn, and they're like, man, you're leading the way with all this courage. Keep doing these things. And I'm like, yeah, courage is taking the next step forward with wet pants. And it's like, dude, I'm like learning to live in wet pants.
Yeah.
So how are you dealing with imposter syndrome?
I think that part of it is, part of it, some of it's just humor in me saying, look, I'm not a county. And, I mean, I I am not, but I've learned a lot, and I've also learned to attract, to select, and to work with people that are those subject matter experts. You're not going to be the smartest person in the room, and everybody says, I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. But there's a little bit of you that wants to be the smartest person in the room, because then you're confident, then you're the subject matter expert, then no one's, sharp shooting you or saying, well, that's wrong. I don't agree with that. You're the smartest person in the room. So yeah, we're going to defer to you. But to really say, okay, well, let's build a team together. And then
Mm,
also realize the value. I mean, what I have learned in my business and talking with entrepreneurs, I come from a banking background. Although I'm not a county, I live in numbers. I live in I help entrepreneurs translate their finances into operations and see the impact and the connection between both of them. But I'm not the smartest person in the room. I have not run a roofing business for 12 years. So I'm not going to be as smart as one of my clients. But what
right.
I can do is that I can take the experiences that I have and being able to deal with all of the different types of businesses that I did for 17 years and
Mm,
to apply the financial discipline that a self-storage person has to a roofer. A self-storage person typically doesn't have one or two people that buys up all 230 units. So they are diversified. So as a
mhm.
roofer, and you've got one or two clients that make up 60% of your business, that's great while the gravy's good. But when they stop or they go out to bid or they get bought, that's
Mm,
bad. So how do you use what the God-given talents and attributes and natural bent and experience to be able to bring value to the people that you serve? That is what entrepreneurship is all about. That is what being a CFO, an advisor, someone that sits on a board is all about. It is these are some things that I see that we need to be aware of, or I think that we're okay. This is acceptable risk. Let's move forward. And it's about having the plan and then execute the damn thing. And if it's wrong, then you figure out and you adjust. But if you've done an analysis to say, okay, if if I hired this lead marketing person and they're $120,000 a year, well, if they don't work out after 6 months, I'm not going to go bankrupt. But how do you do that? How do you push forward and use? You're not an imposter if you can just actually bring value to what it is that you're
Yeah.
talking about.
But to your point on a couple of things, hiring, I've heard hiring is guessing, firing is knowing.
Yeah.
But then also it's willing to make a bet on your bigger future. And you mentioned God-given talent. I'm curious for you personally, and I was just talking to another entrepreneur before we hopped on this podcast about the role of faith
Mhm.
as an entrepreneur. It took me 23 years as an entrepreneur to figure out, like faith is important.
Yeah.
Faith is the substance of things that we hope for. It's the evidence of the things that we don't see. I, to be quite honest, was not very good at inviting God into my business. I don't know what it
Mhm.
was: pride, ego, arrogance, whatever you want to call it. How has your faith influenced you as an entrepreneur over the last 2 years?
Um, well, I mean, he's the one that owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. So, and I before I entered into this, my wife and I prayed a lot about it and had peace about it. So knowing, okay, if this is where God is leading me, then I need to try to have success defined as he defines success, not how Greg defines success. And that might have been an utter failure, but it was stepping out in faith saying, okay, this is where I feel that you've led us, so I'm going to do this. It leads to, I mean, it has financially, it's been great for us. On the flip side, I've worked more hours than I ever thought possible, and I worked pretty hard as a banker. But a light week for me and a light week for most entrepreneurs is probably somewhere around 50 to 55 hours. Now I need to work on myself and work on my business and figure out how I can buy back my time and all that stuff. But the fact of the matter is that was a step of faith. Um, and part of that was honestly the biggest thing from a faith perspective. It was way back in 2006 when I got out of the Army. JR, when I got out of the Army, I was at Fort Bragg. I was an 82nd paratrooper. I got out as a captain. I'd been deployed to Iraq once, Afghanistan once. I was a jump master. Had a Ranger tab, all this stuff, and I was like, man, I'm gonna get out and I'm gonna have a job. 2, maybe 3, maybe 4 weeks tops. Here I am. I'm high speed. I'm got all this stuff, and God was like, nope. Wait a second. And 5 months later, of not having a job, not having any clue, knowing that I wanted to get into financial services. I mean, like I was applying for, and there's nothing wrong with this position, but I was applying for entry level teller position, part-time teller positions that I'd have to drive an hour to.
Wow.
And it was just to get my foot in the door. But
Yeah.
then God prevailed, and literally a bank that was door to door, a mile from my house, interviewed me for what was their leadership training program. And the person I interviewed with was like, we are not sending him to the leadership training program. We're hiring him. We're going to make a position. And so God led that way. And so, but that was very humbling. And that Captain Martin thought he was a badass and thought that he would have no problem securing a job. Look at all that I've done, and then being humbled to the point of, okay, God, if this is where you want me to be and you want me to be as a teller, I will do that. So that I applied that to this job to be like, I'm not taking anything for granted. So God, please have mercy on me and show me before I take the leap, but it's got to be for your glory.
Yeah, but I think it's two things. I think there's faith, but I think there's action as well, because faith essentially without works, faith without action is also dead. And so it's having that confidence to essentially step out of the boat, you know, walk on water, and I will tell you, it's like when you take your eyes off of God, that's when you start to sink.
Yeah.
And I'm a slow learner. I'm a bit pig-headed. I think. Do you watch The Chosen? Have you watched The Chosen
Yeah.
at all?
Yeah.
The way they have personified Peter, I connect with Peter a lot. Because I mean, if you think about it, like Peter was a bit entrepreneurial. Peter was in trouble with the Romans, having to, and I'm like, I've really connected with the character, the way that's personified in The Chosen. And if you haven't watched The Chosen, if you're interested, highly recommend.
I agree.
It's obviously there's some story and narrative, liberty being taken here, but to me, it's my wife and I, we don't have really TV for that matter. We canceled all our subscriptions, but that's one that we'll sit down and we'll watch and we'll share with the kids and have some really good conversations. So that's why I was just curious, because it's like, as I've now launched Level Up Business, this for me personally has been a big leap of faith. It's
Mm-hmm.
if I think about where I was, a couple of best-selling books, one of the top 5% podcasts, but I felt probably since 2021, God literally put it on my heart, put it in my mind for that matter, to have the idea. It's like, and I was like, I don't want to do that. I'm not ready for it.
But God, I made my niche. I did what everybody says I should do. Like I am the dude when
That's
it
the
comes
thing.
to,
I did what everyone said I should do, and I wasn't being true, and I wasn't being honest first and foremost with myself, and then also listening to that little voice inside you. And that little voice is like, it's like Daniel White. I've had him on, and we've had a couple of conversations. It's in God's timing.
Mhm.
As much as we want to control, and I think for me as an entrepreneur, it is about letting go. That's been probably the biggest lesson for me. It's like, okay, I do have to let go, but I still need to continue to take action. I still need to continue to move forward and make progress. I want to shift here as we start to wrap up, and I really appreciate it, just the perspective, because there's probably just one person who's watching or listening to this. It's going to make an impact. They're going to see something, they're going to hear something, it's going to connect, it's going to resonate, it's going to help them. So thank you for
Mhm.
sharing your unique wisdom, which has come from your unique perspective that you've gained from lived, learned, shared experience. I mean, when you think about the other area that I know a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with, it's like making connections, having
Mhm.
conversations. You've been podcasting. Like you've been doing
Mhm.
this thing. You've got Aggie Growth Hacks. You've been doing that for almost
Mhm.
6 years now. Before you even launched this thing, how did that world of podcasting, connections, conversations, how has that influenced you, both leading into your entrepreneurial journey and perhaps even after?
Mhm. Well, I think that both of us would agree that, and probably a lot of the podcasting world can go back to Gary Vee and to say, okay, look at him and his example. And whether you like him or you think he's brash or you don't like that he swears, whatever. But the fact of the matter is he's got a system and he has a mentality and an approach that has served him well and one that I align with. And I agree. I don't agree with everything he says, but one that I agree with. And that is you have to just give. And that's why we started Aggie Growth Hacks. That's why you do everything that you do is that you just give value. You bring in and have zero expectation of getting anything in return. Like the Entrepreneur's Banker, Aggie Growth Hacks, all of the articles and all the videos and all that stuff that I did, I mean, shoot, do you remember the dark old days of COVID and no one knew what the hell this PPP thing was? And like I remember making daily PPP videos is basically, hey, this is what we figured out today. It's probably
Yeah.
going to change by the time I post this, but here's what you know. And it's giving that information and not expecting anything in return, having a servant heart of saying, if I can bring value to you, if I can encourage you, if I can point you towards God, if I can do something that makes your burden a little bit lighter, or to share an experience, and maybe it's just to laugh at me because here's the CFO that is admitted to the entire world, I don't know what a debit and a credit is, then great. But the reality of it is that you have to just have that attitude of give, give, give. And I mean, and God's going to take care of me. He's going to take care of me. And it doesn't matter what I do to make $1 million in this business, or to barely squeak by, or to have it colossally fail. But what I've learned through that is then preparing me for the next step. And it's
Yes.
having that open handedness of constantly bringing value and helping, because an entrepreneur that thinks they know it all is not an entrepreneur that I want to work with, because I want to at least have a discussion and say, here's another way of looking about it. Let's talk about it. It's your business. You make the call. But if you truly want me on your team, giving way, pushing in the same direction as you are, then you better listen to the experiences that I have. But Greg's got to bring value in everything that I do.
Well, how many episodes have you done? I see season 4. But there's 4 seasons. In season 4, it looks like you pushed up into 16 episodes. How many podcasts have you done over the years?
I think that we actually just recently made the decision to stop the podcast, and I think that we tapped out at around 150. Um,
Wow.
and it was my co-host, he was an entrepreneur. He always had, so had the flexibility. He built things in, and he actually has a roofer growth hacks. He's a marketer that focuses specifically on helping roofers. Um, but he's built that. But I was like, dude, if you're an old bank boss listening to this, sorry, I don't mean this way, but I had so much more free time when I was working for the bank, when I was working for the man. now, now when it was okay, I can either pull out a day, even a day a month to do a batch recording. That was great. But when I had board presentations to do, I had audits to go through, I had, financial reports to be able to translate numbers into meaningful KPIs. I got to take care of my business. I got to take it. So it was. I mean, I think that we tapped out around 150 episodes, and I'm so thankful and grateful for that because it also taught me how to. I mean, I don't think I'm that bad of a public speaker, but it made me be comfortable in front of people and talking with them. But it also allowed me to just be like, look, I don't care. Um, and how can I bring value to you and you
What was
alone?
the decision? What was the decision to stop after 150 episodes? Because I think that's an important lesson too
Uh,
for who's thinking about doing this. It's like, okay, you made the commitment, you did it, you did 150 episodes, and then you're like, okay, I'm done.
it truly was. I've got to prioritize my time, and I've got to prioritize what I bring to my clients, and I just didn't have the capacity to do both, and
Yes.
that's okay. That's part of being an entrepreneur, and it's also part of being in my world. Like I've got James Robert, two of those clients that gave me the strength to step out. As of today, I'm no longer working with one. And over the next 45 days, I'm going to pare down my partnership with another one because they've grown to the point that they deserve to have someone in my role full time. And that's
Right.
awesome. Businesses change, businesses grow, businesses evolve. If you're the same today that you are 5 years from now, I mean, I don't know. I mean, if my business would rank it down 2 million bucks a month, I'd probably be okay with being the same today in 5 years. But if you're not there, then realize it's okay to grow and it's okay to change.
I disagree with you. You say if I get to $2 million a month, I wouldn't want to grow. I disagree because I feel like that entrepreneur, you'd get to that point and be like, what's the next mountain I can climb? How do I go from 2 to 5 million? And it's
Yeah.
just that's part of that entrepreneurial MO of curiosity. Like, how far can I go? How far can I walk with God to get to that next level
Yeah.
too? If you are one walking with faith as well, that's just a disagree. I disagree with
No,
you on that.
I think that I would probably agree with that. But it's a matter of, um, one, that's pretty good, to be able to be able to take down 2 million bucks a month away from your business. But then to balance out to say, okay, well, what is it that if God's entrusted me with this, what can I do with
Hmm.
this? How can I be open handed with that? I mean, if I take home 2 million bucks a month and I take 20 grand for me and the rest of it is given away for his purpose, then I've got motivation to pile on and do more. Uh, but you're also talking to a solopreneur. Like I'm the dude. Like literally, I'm I'm reading Buy Back My Time, and so like I'm going through my 2 week time audit of
Damn
okay,
yourself.
what are things to actually outsource to, and and to be able to say okay, how do I do that because the solopreneur, if I could do 2 million bucks and it's still the only GM, that's awesome.
Yes.
But how do we grow? So okay, I'll concede a little bit with that.
Yeah, because I just think like in something that I learned from Dan Sullivan in Strategic Coach, it's you always want to make your future bigger than your past. And your past is nothing more than the tuition you had to pay to get to the
Yeah,
point of the present moment. And so as you're thinking about that, you mentioned buy back your time. I'm also thinking about 10x is easier than 2x.
Mhm.
And I think those are two great complementary reads. There's something else too, and I read a lot. And I had this. You talked about when you were doing the podcast world, giving more than you get. And this is what's in it for them by Joe Polish. It's another fantastic read on that point. I want to wrap up on this final question for you. If you think back, because you were just starting to maybe go there and then you went a different direction. If you think back over the last two years or so as an entrepreneur, what has been the biggest lesson that you've learned? The thing that you there's this one thing I've learned, perhaps even about yourself,
Mhm.
just as a human being.
Um, the first thing is I love accountants, but thank God I'm not one. Um, to have to take a company that was non-GAAP to become GAAP compliant for the non-accountant dude to have to do that. Thank God that we
Uh-huh.
had people keep people there. So I have having the right people and building that out. Um, I think that, I mean, all jokes aside, it is to realize that the value that I think I bring isn't necessarily the value that the entrepreneurs I serve think I bring.
Hmm.
And
What do
to
you
the
mean by
point
that?
of, you know, I'm a numbers guy. All right. I'm not an accountant, but I'm a numbers guy. And I look at trends and I look to see, okay, how does this lever being pulled, how does it affect that? And here's the numbers and here's what it looks like in our balance sheet or our P&L. And God bless them, entrepreneurs are like, yeah, I mean, they don't they don't ignore that, but they're like, I don't care about that. What does it mean? And
Mm-hmm.
if I have sessions with clients, if I've got an hour, one, I need to do a good job and give them the information ahead of time so that they can be prepared to come do that. That's on me. It's not on them. But then two, we spend about 15 minutes talking about the past, and we spend 45 minutes talking about what the past means and the future. That is a value that I didn't think that was the value that I would really bring, but consistently that's what I've heard. It is that strategic financial partnership at the high level that brings value, not something that I would have built. That would not have been number one. It's something I offer, but it would not have been my lead when talking with a new client.
That's super interesting that bridging the past, the present, and the future. It reminds me of a strategic framework that I've taught over the years of what's been going well. Where have you been winning? The past. What are you excited about right now? Present. What have you learned connecting the past and the present? And then what are you looking forward to over the next day, week, month, quarter, year?
Mhm.
And it comes back to what I was mentioning before, always making your future bigger than your past. Greg, if someone's watching or listening and they want to connect with you, they might need a fractional CFO. And I love the way that you've showed up here today. And just you've shared your wisdom, you've shared your truth, you've shared some of your faith. What's the best way for them to reach out and say hello and connect with you?
Yeah. So from the social media perspective, LinkedIn is really the only thing that I'm on. Like I think my Facebook picture, like I have hair in it. So it's been
I
that
gotta
long.
look that up because I have a little bit of hair today on the top of my head and then on my face, and it's just because I'm coming back from 2 weeks in Italy and I have not shaved. But yes, so I got to go check that out because the only
Yes.
Greg Martin I've ever known is the bald Greg Martin, kind of like the bald Jr.
Yeah. But it's so LinkedIn is connect me on socials, but then GPM dash financial. That's, I mean, it's amazingly wild creative marketing, Gregory Paul Martin. So gpm-financial.com. Then you can either send me a message through that or at my email or phone numbers on there. And I'd love to be able to just connect. I mean, just to talk and say, hey, what's going on? If it's something I can help with, great. if it's not. The cool thing is that finding a tribe of other CFOs, like I'm part of a mastermind of hundreds of other CFOs across the US that have different industry niches and different experiences. And so, like, if you're a retail person, you have a retail store, I'm not your guy because I don't have that experience, but I know people that do, and I can help you. I get nothing out of it except the joy of seeing you succeed. And I'd have to be happy to do that.
Life gives to the giver, as Joe Polish says. So, Greg, thank you for giving of your time, of your talent today. I'm so grateful for you, buddy. It's so good to catch up.
I appreciate you, appreciate Audrey and everything that you're doing, expanding beyond just a bunch of bank nerds talking about swap dividends and all that other stuff. So I appreciate you and your work.
I want to thank you again for tuning in to learn, to grow, to level up together with Greg's unique wisdom. If you are a B2B entrepreneur, a visionary B2B entrepreneur who has unique wisdom, just like Greg has shared with you today, send me a text right now, 832-240-1922, because I want to teach you how to turn video content into a book that amplifies your unique wisdom so you can elevate your brand's influence and, most importantly, increase your revenue.